Welcome to reading 3.4 on an overview of real estate. So in this reading, that's exactly what we'll do. We'll sort of introduce ourselves to the different components of real estate. Our focus will be commercial real estate investment. So first we start out by just talking about real estate, the different types of real estate, public versus private, commercial versus residential, just sort of broadly introducing ourselves to the terms. And then looking at some advantages and disadvantages of investing in commercial real estate and some of the styles associated with commercial real estate, things like core, value added, are some of the styles associated with commercial real estate. And then the last half of last section of the reading focuses on different sectors of commercial real estate. And there's 4 primary sectors in commercial real estate that we'll review. One is office real estate, the other is industrial, the third is retail, and then multifamily. So those are the 4 key sectors in real estate, and we'll spend a little time looking at some of the characteristics of those investments and assets. All right, so before we begin our sort of all the detailed discussion, we first want to just basically define the term real estate. So it can very broadly describe or comprise 3 categories. One is, if you refer to real estate, you may be referring to the ground or the land on which a building is placed, or the ground underneath it, right? So the surface, underneath the surface of the earth, for example. The second might be, when you refer to real estate, it might be improvements that you're talking about, permanent structures, in other words, buildings that are on the land, or alterations that are made to the land to accommodate those buildings. So things like roads or electricity, water pipes, etc. And the third one is the term that's just referred to as real property. And this is basically both numbers 1 and 2, ground and improvements. So in our discussion, when we talk about real estate, that's actually what we're referring to. We're referring to number 3, which is basically numbers 1 and 2 together, both the land on which you build something underneath it and any improvements to that land. All right, so we're going to start out by just looking at different categories of real estate. And so very broadly, there's many ways that you can categorize real estate. You can categorize it as public versus private, as we have here, domestic versus international, equity versus debt, commercial versus residential. So lots of different categories. So here we're looking at private versus public. So private real estate equity is basically either direct or indirect ownership of physical properties that are not exchange traded, hence obviously they're private. And then private real estate can also be called physical real estate or direct real estate, different terms used to describe private real estate. And it can be in the form of equity, directly owning the property, or via a debt instrument like a mortgage. And then the market is made up of different types of properties, and they can be commercial or residential. Things like farmland and timberland are also considered to be forms of real estate, and sometimes they're actually considered real assets as opposed to being classified specifically or broadly as or specifically as real estate. And then in terms of advantages of using private real estate equity compared to public equity, this is sort of basically this advantage applies to any sort of private investment, is just a lot more control. So with respect to private real estate, you can select the